right, it's Tuesday night. Oh, we're only 2 weeks away from the end of the college hockey season, and we have our Frozen Four set. And tonight we're joined by Brent again. I got to wave at him at the NCHC championship game because he was fancy, sitting in the club seats that he got for free. But we've had quite the week. I mean, since we really last talked.
Was gonna say I feel left out. You guys were both at the last call in St. Paul, the
Oh,
final
Indeed.
the final Frozen face-off to be held at a neutral site, and it was won by Western Michigan Broncos, which we talked about last week. But I think you guys both were there and got to experience it firsthand. So uh, fun and
yeah.
exciting
Then
times. I mean, Brent, you were at every single one of them. Closing it down the right way.
Correct. Yeah. Everyone held in Minnesota. I've got to be very particular.
Yeah, because
But
there was
yes.
the year that it was in North Dakota
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
gives
But
them
yes.
a rather large asterisk to them winning the Penrose and the Frozen Face-Off in the same year, and I will fight anybody on that point because there's a difference between playing a pod in the first month of the season in December and then playing pretty much two or three teams the rest of the season and winning a championship out of it, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs, and then they won 3 games to lift the Frozen Face-Off trophy all in their home building. So it deserves a rather large asterisk. Western is the only team to do it with a regular season, including non-conference games, a regular season of conference play, and a full playoff tournament. So
The quote right thing.
the right way, yes.
Brent, did you go when it was at the Target Center as well? I don't recall. Yeah,
Yep.
that thing was, I don't know if you've ever been there for a basketball game, but that was weird when I went there to see it as a hockey arena because everything was raised up. And
Yeah.
as they were showing it on the Jumbotron, I pointed it out to my brother. I'm like, yeah, that's what that looks like. And it's not right. It's not okay. I was bothered by that.
Yeah, that was like the first time I'd ever really been in Target Center. So that was like my first experience. But then that first year, my dad and I went to the Wolves game that Sunday afterwards, and it was definitely a little interesting.
And they probably got killed because they were probably terrible that
It
year in most
they
ways.
they blew a 30-point lead.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah,
That
they blew a
tracks.
30-point lead to Phoenix. I remember that very vividly.
Then we also somehow I've become the more dedicated Broncos fan because I was at the game on Saturday when the Western Michigan Broncos clinched their first ever Frozen Four appearance.
You say that, and it kind of hurts my feelings because we've talked about this. And
It should.
dedication and willing to spend money are not the same thing, good sir. And I would like you to take that into account.
But yeah, that it was a fun game, and I ended up running into Dan Bartholomew, the athletic director who we've had on. I kind of looked for him, and he was gonna go yell at the ESPN crew because the stream was not working when I ran into him, and uh, we both had the same idea. We weren't worried about the guys when they were down 1-0. It was just kind of like, yeah, they've been here before. They came back from 3 goals in one period last week or the previous weekend. Uh, they to me they just didn't look quite right though. It wasn't the Western Michigan hockey that we've known, and kind of the same thing through the first 2 periods last Saturday. They just looked a little off for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, a little slow start. There might have been a little hangover from the first round win. Western's kind of a new territory here. Really, the only person on the team who's been in this situation before is Tristan, and he was there last year with Denver. Um, but no, overall, I mean, you're never gonna see discomfort from the team. Like they might play a little bit slow or whatever, but they don't panic. There's not panic on that bench. It comes from the head coach that goes through the players, and they always seem to be composed more so than in years past, and it's proven to be successful. Ferschweiler recorded his 100th win during the NCHC playoffs. And in fact, the night they clinched the Penrose was his 100th win as head coach of Western Michigan. So in 4 years, I mean, to win 100 games is, you're doing something right there, and they're getting guys to buy into the system and establishing a culture that I hope they're able to pass down as we get further and further from his first year's worth of players who are starting to graduate here now.
Yeah, and I do think watching this game, I mentioned it to you, they can play all different ways of hockey, all different styles. Like this game was way more physical than the one for the Frozen Face-Off Championship. It was guys were flying all over, hitting people. It almost felt more like a WWE match in the sense of the physicality, not that they were doing figure fours and everything on each other, and everything was legal, but it was just a completely different style, and nobody could hang on to their dang stick.
No, sticks were flying everywhere.
I don't know how many sticks were on the ice. It was unbelievable.
But honestly, like this team, if you look at the way this team played all year, a high-powered offense, a really good goaltender. Granted, Western switched between two goaltenders, both who were phenomenal all year long. I think either one of them could have gotten them to this point, but Hampton, it seems to be a little bit calmer in net than Cam is on most nights, and I think that's really helpful here. But I mean, both goalies had outstanding years, and really, if either one of them had taken over the net, I think one, it would have been a little bit closer of a contest for NCHC goalie of the year. Not that Simon didn't deserve it by any means, but I do think the thing that hurt either Western goalie was just that they had to split time. But this team really reminds me of the Denver team that won it last year. A solid D core that can shut teams down, an offense that can really kind of score on anybody, but they're limited in what they're doing in the tournament. Because remember, Denver won a lot of 1-goal games last year, a lot of overtime games, and they were the high-powered offense, the number one offense in the country last year, like Western has been for the most part of this season. So to me, like, this team really seems to play a similar style to what Denver did last year, and we're seeing Denver start to get back to now that the tournament's here and they're winning games and made it back to the Frozen Four for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, I mean, and you were even saying it last week and in messages. Western is kind of built like the Vegas Golden Knights team with Marchessault and Eichel and their goalie tandem. It's a very similar formula for winning a championship. You could even argue Florida last year, even though they really didn't do the goalie tandem. It's still a solid team. And I guess the only thing, Hampton, he's kind of had a few Cam moments where the puck gets behind him. It seems like it'd be a little more routine. Then he goes, uh-oh,
Yeah.
has to fling it around. But you'd be fine either way. With whoever it was in net.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that does have to do with just the way the offense has stepped up in front of both goalies this year. There's not as many plays of guys sneaking behind the defenseman and getting clean breakaways. They're doing a better job of clearing pucks around the blue paint. I know that was how I believe the goal was scored, I want to say the Thursday game by Minnesota State. It was, a crease scramble that kind of got pushed in and took Western a long time to get the equalizer and then go to overtime, double overtime before getting the win there. And then, it was a big 5-minute major power play that really allowed Western to tie the game up and then take the lead and shut the game down and get away with a win. And the PK came up huge on the Western side too, because they gave up their own 5-minute major. And that's what, this time of year, that's what you talk about. You talk about special teams, you talk about defense, and you talk about goalies. Everyone knows that every team has guys who can put the puck in net. It's your ability to keep the other guys from doing it that really shines right now. And if you can do it on special teams, you got to take advantage of those. And Western's a team that could certainly take advantage. They were the least penalized team during the regular season, and they drew quite a few penalties from the other team. So I mean that power play got quite a bit of work too, and they were both near the top of the country in stats on both sides of the puck, both in special teams and 5-on-5.
Yeah, and I do think I'll say this. I think the CCHA refs were overmatched. I know I mentioned it to both of you guys, and there were just certain plays where I'm like, these guys don't understand the level of hockey that they're reffing right now. And I had heard something, I think it was when I listened back to the Saturday morning podcast, that somebody had talked with Don Lucia and he was talking about his refs. I'm like, well, that's not good because he's like, our refs are great. I'm like, no, they aren't. There's a lot of obvious things that they're letting go, and it was very annoying. But defensively, I think going back to that Denver team from last year, I think Western has that same thing, and Denver doesn't have the defensive capabilities that they did last year. Yes, they're stepping up now, but I think Western, they can provide offense. They don't have a Zeev Bouillon who's like an Eric Carlson or a Brent Burns, but Denver doesn't have that back end defensive capability that they did last year, where they have somebody that can cover for them, where Western does this year. And they're getting in front of pucks and they're winning faceoffs. I mean, that's a huge part of it too. They're winning the faceoffs that are in the offensive zone. I mean, Bump almost had another goal the other day from the opposite side.
Yeah.
In the same play that he had it from the in the Frozen Faceoff Championship game.
And the other thing, like I know we talked about it last week before the tournament started, and I made sort of I don't know if I made jokes, but I discredited Minnesota State's defense a little bit. And to be honest, I don't think I was wrong in my assessment that they may have been the number one team defensively in the country, but I don't think that number one is as strong as it was let on. And I do think that Western took advantage of that defense a little bit, and it was really their goaltender who lived up to his stats in that game more so than the Minnesota State defense. Western was able to control the puck kind of the way they have all year. They were able to shoot when they wanted to shoot. They were able to put pucks on net repeatedly. And eventually they went in a couple times in a couple greasy goals, and Western came out with the win. I mean, defense does tighten up in these tournaments, but again, I don't know that. I think they played Western about as well as anybody has played Western, and they didn't necessarily look like the number one defense in the country.
There was a weird statement. Well, there's a lot of statements made by the ESPN crew on Thursday, and I'm guessing Saturday as well. But they said, yeah, when you think of Minnesota State, you think of defense. I'm kind of like, since when? I mean, this year, I guess, but they've always been a high-powered offensive team. I don't know if I'm crazy in that, but other than when they had what was steroid dude's name?
Drayden McKay.
Yeah. Other than,
I mean, yeah, outside of they've had a couple good goaltenders, a couple, McKay and now Tracy, but yeah, I don't know that I've ever thought of them as a lockdown defense. I've thought of them as having a really good goaltender and then a team that can put up points if they get behind you, which I think is exactly what they are still. I think they're aided by a little bit weaker of a conference in the CCHA, and they really had a 50-50 non-conference schedule. I mean, played some teams that kind of, I think they played North Dakota, who struggled in the non-conference this year. They played maybe I think St. Cloud, who struggled in the non-conference. I didn't look at their schedule like super deep, but I mean, there were some teams that they played that struggled in the non-conference too. So
yeah, they played us. They swept us.
Yeah, yeah, and you guys had trouble.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, credit to that coaching staff though. They, 2 years ago they lose basically their whole team,
Mm-hmm.
and they built it right back up. They never really missed a beat. But still, yeah, to your point, they're not in the strongest conference. They really aren't, and so they should be there, and they're losing one of the best teams next year when St. Thomas comes over to the NCHC. So they're going to be back again. They're going to win it. But that's a reason too, though. They were a 4 seed. They
Yeah.
technically won it because St. Thomas wasn't eligible. But they're not going to get a high seed with that, and they shouldn't have.
No, I mean, honestly, I think the biggest surprise of the tournament might be that Michigan State did not make it out of the first round. They got bumped off by Cornell. And then, the NCHC, everyone says it's a down year. It's a down year. Well, they've got 50% of the Frozen Fours coming from the NCHC. They've got a guaranteed spot in the national title game because, unfortunately, they have to play each other. And it's, man, of all the matchups, this was the one. I have complete confidence in Western Michigan. Don't get me wrong. I think they can go out and they can win another game or two and have a legit shot at being the national champions this year. But man, I did not want to play Denver again this soon. Because all it reminds me of is when Denver and UMD played each other in 2022, when Denver won their first one under Carl. And, it was those two teams battled in the Frozen Face-Off. Ryan Fanti shut out the tournament there in St. Paul by shutting out Denver, and then Western Michigan. Those two teams battled their way to whatever round they met in the Frozen Face-Off, and I looked at Mike and I go, well, I think Denver's going to finally get UMD here because UMD got them last time, and it was a tight contested game before that, and that's what happened.
I think it would be the same thought, regardless who won the Frozen Face-Off, where if Denver had gotten Western, then be like, well, Western's going to get them this time. And now this one, it's like, Denver might get Western this time because it's two great coaching staffs and two great teams. There's a reason that they're here, and there's a reason they're always in contention.
And every coach will tell you it's hard to beat the same team multiple times throughout a year. And now we're getting to the fourth matchup between these two teams. Western's 2-1, 2-1, 1 in reg, 1 loss in overtime, and 1 win in overtime. Winning the most important one so far, that being for the Frozen Face-Off Trophy. Now we've got a new most important one to get to the finals for the national title game. But if you look at the history between these two teams, Firsch has kind of had Carl's number, and they've played extremely well. But Western, I think, has come out on the winning end more often than not between these two coaches here as of late. Like I said, they got 2 of 3 this year. They might have split last year. Let me look real quick.
And as you're saying that, I think it's a little easier for the losing team to make adjustments than the winning team, because what you did wrong, you can adjust to what beat you. And the winning team, they're like, well, we'll keep the same formula. They have to do more in-game adjustments than they do pre-game adjustments. So that'll be interesting to see.
Okay, so last year they split both at Lawson and in Denver. In December here at Lawson, Western won 7-3 and then lost 5-6 in overtime. In Denver last year, they lost 2-3 and then they won 7-2. So, I mean, they know how to get pucks past Davis. Actually, I think the first matchup they did not play Davis, but they might have played him in the second one last year because that was when Davis had gone through. They were on like their 5th goalie by the time they got to December last year. And we're calling them up from the USHL. And then this year, like I said, Western won the first game in regulation 3-2, I think. They go to overtime and Denver wins 3-2. They go to St. Paul. Denver gets up 3-0 in the second period, 3 quick goals. And for the second, and then Western gets 3 goals in the third to tie it, and they win in double overtime. And for the second time on a Saturday game, a big offside call goes against Denver, and it changes the projection of that game a little bit. It gave BC a little life. it kind of kept them within the game to a certain degree. And then once it got close to the end of the game and they pulled the goalie, I mean, that's kind of what really sealed it, was the last couple seconds of that game. But man, Denver's really got to figure out, one, how to not let teams get back into games, and make sure you're on sides if you're trying to build a lead and not let a team come back.
I think I didn't get to watch much of their game against Providence, but I mean, they at least were able to get that lead and then hold on to it to kind of get them to. And I think going forward with the Western DU game, like it makes it tough to kind of get a hold on how this next game's going to go because of how the championship game went, because of Denver getting out 3-0 and then Western having to crawl back 3-3 and doing it in double overtime. It's just like Denver was able to get that lead and then they weren't able to hold on to it. So it's like if they were able to hold on, so then it would be a little bit easier to kind of grasp. But with the way that it ended, it's like you just don't know which team you're going to get for 60 minutes.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Like, this is the first break Western has had since January. I mean, they got the first break of the second half of the NCHC season, and they played that whole second half basically straight through from January till last weekend. I mean, they were out there every weekend and on short weeks with the way the NCAA tournament started. They had that Thursday game, so really this is their first chance to catch their breath, heal up some of the nagging injuries, the little aches and pains as best they can, and everybody gets a chance to heal up. And we should have two teams that are as close to 100% as you're going to get, unless it was the beginning of the year, really. And play this out. It's Western versus Denver in the first semifinal, and Penn State versus BU. I mean, there's no easy game left, and someone's going to have to really battle to earn this trophy.
I think it would be really cool to get the Penn State Western, because either program, they will win their first national championship. I think that would just be fun. Forget the blue bloods in there. The and all I've seen on social media is Penn State, this is their first one. This is because they're a Big Ten school and they bring in the eyeballs basically because of being a Big Ten school. But let's not forget the little guy.
I mean, they're in there. They've been around for roughly 12, 14, maybe 15 years now.
I was gonna say maybe like 15 years, somewhere in there.
Because I think they had a couple independent seasons before the formation of the Big Ten and the NCHC. And then I got distracted because Jason asked, "What does he chop liver?" I'm like, but you mentioned that you meant Jason at the.
Yes, I did.
The regional championship game.
Maybe not on here. Sorry, Jason. My bad.
I think you brought him up on here, but no, I mean Penn State. They were basically the home team for that regional, and that was kind of why I had them potentially coming out of there. UConn beating Quinnipiac, I think, was a little bit of surprise.
I had UConn coming out of there. I had Penn State UConn as my regional final, but I thought UConn was going to be able to pull out. But it was, I mean, that game obviously having Penn State there really helped, and it made it probably a lot better of a game. But that was a really fun regional.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a regional where everyone's kind of close to each other. No one's getting a real travel disadvantage, kind of like they did up in Manchester, with Denver having to go all the way across the country through two different, couple time zones over. But again, they find a way to win that one. And then Toledo also had everybody from the East Coast. Fargo, almost Western half the tournament has to travel from the Eastern time zone to Central. So, but yeah, no, I mean, that Penn State crowd was great. They were pulling for them all night. I do believe that's what gave Penn State a lot of the juice. I don't know if they'll have as much juice crowd wise in St. Louis as they did at home. So I don't know if they can really ride that this time. And like I said, I mean, a week and a half is kind of a big break here. So it'll be interesting to see who shakes off the rust a little bit if there is any, and who made the most of their rest here and can get back going. But I
And
think honestly it should be two really fun games though.
I think that that first semifinal between Denver and Western, the crowd will be more into that because it I doubted it. I wasn't quite sure how Western was going to show out on Saturday, but the fans were there. A little easier to get there for Western fans from Kalamazoo than the UMass fans, but it was definitely a more Western centric crowd. Uh,
That
I and
and I think, like I said, Western was picking up fans from the Fargo Forest crowd that may have shown up to see some of their former players play too.
and I think it was just uh I talked with some North Dakota fans that were there, I think just cheering on the conference. Uh, that helps as well, even though they were still just like Sue and I'm like,
Hey, they
for
have
the love of God, no.
they have their own stuff to worry about. All right. So other big news, around the conference now that Mike mentions UND. They make a change at coach. Barry is let go after 10 years with the program, having won, I believe, 5 regular season championships, a national title, couple of Frozen Faceoffs, at least one. The COVID year, when he won the Penrose and the Frozen Faceoff in the same year. They hire promote assistant coach Dane Jackson to head coach. Um, so interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. If you want to, dude, some of the retweets and posts on social media are absolute gold following that situation. I don't. There is no winning with some of those fans over in North Dakota. Some of them hate that they just promoted the coach. Some feel like they might have got pressured by the current students, and they're not happy about that. I don't know, man. They've got a lot going on because not only do they lose their coach, but they lose some of their high-powered talent. Some going to the pros, whether they were grad students or seniors. Jake Smoltz signs with the Providence Bruins in the AHL. He was a senior. Carter Wilkie, a grad student, signs with Calgary in the AHL. Caleb McDonald, only a sophomore. He signs with the Columbus Blue Jackets of the NHL as a free agent. And Jackson Kuntz, a senior, signs with the Abbotsford Canucks of the AHL. They've also got some names in the transfer portal who may or may not already have destinations. Some are known, some are speculated. I don't think anything's official yet. I'm not entirely sure at what threshold they cross to be official, whether they have to be registered for classes or what it might be. But Jaden Perron, he's expected to announce committing to Michigan. Owen McLaughlin and Sasha Boisvert expected to end up in Boston, whether that's BC or BU. I don't know. I think it was Sasha was BC.
BC.
And Owen might be the other way around. So right now they're rumored to be going there, but not confirmed at the moment. Like I said, there's only a few confirmations in the portal as of right now. But yeah, dude. I mean, North Dakota, when you lose a coach, you can lose a lot of players quick. Northern Michigan showed that and ended up in a very bad spot. So it is possible that things could get worse before they get better out in the big skies of North Dakota for the Fighting Hawks.
That program just seems like a mess right now. It really does, and it has for the last couple years. Lot of transfers, both in and out, kind of one and dones. They seem discombobulated in that they don't know what they're doing. It's not the North Dakota that we're used to, where guys are staying 2, 3, 4 years and then moving on. It's they're going there to maybe get their name under the North Dakota banner to get recognized more. It, or they're going there, they think it's going to be one thing, and then it wasn't. It wasn't what they expected. Uh, it just seems like a program in turmoil where even Miami, how bad they've been, at least they've changed things. And then we talked about it last week, Wes, where there's a few programs that have changed coaches since Barry's been there, but Miami, at least they tried something, it didn't work. They're moving in a different direction, and it seems like they have a plan. North Dakota doesn't seem like they have a plan, and they haven't for the last few years. They're just kind of rolling with whatever they get and have at it. Now, yeah, they did win 20 games this season. Weird to see a coach fired after 20 games,
Yeah.
but or a 20 win season. But we could see it coming a mile away.
And perspective is everything. I mentioned that I thought Barry was kind of in a similar position to what Mike Tomlin is with the Steelers. Yeah, you're getting these winning seasons, but one, it's not what you're expecting as a fan or as the university. You want to win championships. You want to win the big championship, and they haven't done it in 10 years. They haven't done it since Barry's first year. They really haven't even been close since Barry's first year. Yes, you're producing guys to the pro ranks, but you're not keeping guys at the same rate that you used to be. I don't know if it's the transfer portal or if it's player attitude, but the North Dakota name does not seem to have the same prominence it once did, and guys are jumping ship after a season. There may or may not be other turmoil within the locker room itself that's creating a toxic atmosphere. They have a lot going on that can influence that space, but it's not the same North Dakota that it was even at the beginning of the NCHC. And when your expectations are as high as theirs are, you have to look at it in a vacuum and say, is this where we want to be? Is this how we want to be remembered? Is this right for our university? And I think a lot of the times you and I could see it more so than maybe some of the others, because the process and the results aren't always mutually inclusive of each other.
Yeah, and I think the expectations again, that's the biggest thing. I don't blame the fans for being upset with the hiring of the assistant coach or the promotion of the assistant coach, because okay, great. Why are we doing the same thing? He's probably going to continue on. Where Barry, he was promoted, but it was a winning program. But the expectations, they're different there. I think they're the same as Denver. UMD, we don't have as high of expectations, I guess. That's we were mediocre until we weren't, and now we're back, and it's like okay. But I don't know, Brent, you can speak to this. Omaha, I think you just want to have a successful season, and being that if you can be in the top three, that's a really successful season, but you understand where it is. I just think kids are wanting to go more to a Western Michigan. They want to go to an Omaha because it seems like you guys are building a really good culture down there, and a good program for kids to play at. UMD, with the recent success, it was kind of more kids are going there. St. Cloud, they're not going to these big name schools necessarily. They're transferring from like Sam Coangelo, he's going from Northeastern to Western. You got guys going to Western Michigan. You got guys going to Omaha, transferring from these more well-known programs to these lesser-known programs because they built something there.
And I mean, to some degree, there may be an expectation of the player too. And we got to remember, like the portal is not one-sided. It's not always a player just deciding, okay, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm gonna dip out. There could be the coach decides that, hey, it's just not working out, we want to go a different way, we're trying to build something different, we thought it would fit, it didn't. There's a lot of guys that want playing time, and playing time's not available for whatever reason. Like there's a lot of reasons guys are going to the portal, and we have to be cognizant of that and not say it's always player side. But I think we're seeing some of these guys move from these big name programs to some of these smaller schools because there's just less pressure. There's less pressure to play. There's less pressure to be great. There's less pressure to win. Uh, there's you can just go and enjoy the experience of playing hockey again, and to develop your skills a little bit better, and sometimes have a rejuvenation of a career. Um, we mentioned Sam Colangelo a lot because of what he did, but Cam Rowe is another example of this. He was incredible his first year at Wisconsin. He was, I think, the freshman goalie of the year or freshman of the year in the Big Ten. He wins the Big Ten championship. He has a really good team in Wisconsin. The next year, there's some issues with the coach develop. He doesn't get the playing time that he thinks he deserves or has earned. The team takes a step backwards or whatever. It's a miserable situation for a lot of people. He jumps in the portal. Western's aching for goaltending because we lose a bunch of goalies around that time between Bussy leaving and all of our backups leaving and the goalie room being empty. Comes in, has an incredible year, takes the net, plays pretty much every game for 2 years, is a fan favorite. The student section loves him. He loves the student section. I think that's easy to see if you watch the games and the interaction between those two. And I think he enjoyed playing hockey a lot more the last couple of years. Granted, did not have as much playing time this year as I think he would have liked, but really stepped into that mentor role and could be seen as a big reason why Hampton had as much success as he did. Going out and playing the first game and giving Hampton a chance to see the team that he had to face the next night and what tips he could give, like who's doing what to look out for type situations. And I don't think you could ask for much more out of him as a guy who transferred in, stayed 3 years, and left his impact on the record book and became kind of a fan favorite pretty quickly, and rejuvenated both, I think, his love of hockey and his career by being here.
I think you brought up a good point too. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and he gets to leave as a 2-time conference champion in college hockey and as a conference tournament champion. I mean, like, his resume is getting better the longer the season goes on.
And what I was going to say, I think you brought up a good point of we do have to remember, because I forget it all the time, that it might not always be on the player going away, that they might be doing, the team might be doing what's best for the player. There was a thing I saw, I think it was this past summer, where a player in Major League Baseball, or like I think he was in the minors, he got traded for literally nothing. Like, it was a trade, but they just gave him away, and the team was like, I'm sorry, there's no room for you here. I think you're going to have a better opportunity elsewhere. And teams could be doing that, and maybe that's a perfect example. Maybe that's what happened with Isaac Howard. Now, I do think he was going to have a huge role at UMD. He probably went to a more pressure situation at Michigan State, but he excelled there, and it was more of the right fit for him. And God, I hate it, but good for him. So it does go both ways. I forget about that the whole time, because as fans, we want to be like, oh, he doesn't want to play here. He doesn't want to, like, what's wrong with him? But you brought it up, Wes. I'll never be mad for a kid doing what he wants to do, whether he transfers or go pro. As long as you're doing what's right for you and what you feel. Am I going to be disappointed? Yeah, but not like a mom or dad disappointed. It's like the fan disappointed. But if you can do well in the pros or you find a better situation, hey, I'm still going to cheer you on.
Yeah, a couple other teams making a lot of moves. I mean, Miami is going to be a completely different team next year. I don't know if you guys have seen how many guys they have either lost to the pros or have entered the portal, but they're going to be a brand new team next year again. Granted, all their pro signings were either seniors or grad students, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They had 8 guys sign pro deals, all in the ECHL, everywhere from Toledo to Idaho. And then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more in the transfer portal. So expect them to have a big haul.
Sounds like Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha's got a lot of dudes in the portal too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got 9. It's basically the same. We've got 9 in the portal and 8 guys that are out of eligibility. So
Yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch.
So it's going to be a brand new NCHC, and it's going to be interesting to see who can build the team back up again. First Weiler's been great at it. Omaha, or not Omaha, UND has kind of struggled with it in certain positions. Sometimes they've hit the jackpot, sometimes they haven't. Big names leaving Omaha is Tanner Ludke. Is probably the biggest one that comes to mind. Wani was only a sophomore too. His brother Griffin is deciding to stay with the team. They will keep like Cozy for another season, so some good news there. Well, what's just kind of the feeling both with the transfer portal, who jumped in, who didn't. What are you kind of hoping for as far as either recruits or some transfer portal incomes?
yeah, Tanner was the big one, obviously, like you said. Um, Really interesting to kind of see him explore, but he didn't get to play this year, which the whole situation is kind of a mind boggle to us. Like he didn't get to play last year, and he's probably only going to play one more season of college before Utah calls him up. So again, he's doing what he feels is right. Can't be mad about that. So otherwise, everyone else, like you kind of, at least here in Omaha, you kind of had that feeling of some of those like freshmen or guys that didn't quite pan out the way that this season thought it would. Um, to see them enter, and we've got I think 10 freshmen coming in, either from USHL or from the CHL. So we've got a big freshman class coming in. I'm sure we'll fill in the rest with some transfers. Obviously, Kevin Radler was another big one. Heard that his NHL team, Ottawa, wants him to play next season because his rights are up after next season. So he is searching for another team to get some playing time.
I know a team that has pretty good track record of putting players in Ottawa if he wants to stay in the NCHC, and they might actually be looking for a goalie too. They have
so
they have a pretty good track record of pulling goalies from the portal. A little young though for them. I don't know if they're really going to take a look at a young guy. They seem to like those seasoned vets in the crease
yeah,
for 1 year.
They certainly liked someone else that decided to stay. So who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Some other rumors floating around trying to again go for that 1 year that 1 year rental.
Absolutely.
But if you don't know who we're talking about fucking North Dakota, right? The team sends everybody to Ottawa and has the last 4 years has pulled a senior or a grad student goalie out of the portal to play 1 year for them, and it's kind of worked out a couple times. But
It's literally the Ottawa Fighting Hawks and then the Winnipeg Bulldogs, because
Yeah.
I think there's like
Yeah.
4 or 5 Bulldogs on Winnipeg. They just
Yeah.
go that way.
Yeah. So
But yeah, we've got a lot of mixed feelings. Obviously, a lot of favorite players and stuff are entered the portal, but the Gabs and Co. kind of they haven't had many misses in their roster, how they put their roster together. So they've obviously got a plan. Sometimes it sucks having to let some guys go who have really shown the dedication to playing for Omaha, but this is college hockey now, so we kind of just have to go with the flow, and hopefully with this big class, like the last 2 seasons now, we've had basically whole new teams, so hopefully we can get a few of these guys that are the core guys that can stick around for a couple years and keep that culture going.
The other thing I'm noticing is you guys had 3 guys that this is their second time transferring.
Yeah, Garrett,
Noah and
Dylan, and Noah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they came in expecting something different, expecting NCHC to be a different league or whatever it was, and realized that their style of play may not fit with what the NCHC plays or what Omaha plays, and so taking another chance and going somewhere else. Yeah,
That probably has to tamper your expectations too, though, of the season coming in with the big freshman class, where you guys have had success. You finally last year you made it to St. Paul for the first time. This year, first round didn't quite go the way that you had hoped it to, but now maybe your expectations are just a little bit lower as a fan base, where it's like, okay, we're gonna have to go through because a lot of college programs are going through this now, where they have to be like, uh-oh, we gotta build this core group back up again.
Right. Yeah, I think last season was kind of an outlier, kind of overachieved a little bit. So our expectations going into the season were probably a little lofty, but um, the 6 game losing streak in the first half certainly kind of brought us back to earth in having 15 new guys on the team and having to get some of that chemistry back. But then, I mean, eventually the team got together and had a good second half before, like you said, the first round of the playoffs kind of didn't end exactly how we wanted or how it should have ended. But yeah, it's definitely having back-to-back years now where we're going to have 15 plus new players on the team. It's definitely like, okay, we are hoping for a top half finish. Like that's a good, like, let's have home ice and then, go from there. We can't make it to St. Paul anymore. That's always been the goal, but
Hmm.
hey, I mean, the goal now is to host the son of a bitch on your own ice and raise that cup in front of your own fans, right?
yeah, not anyone else because we've had that done plenty of times,
Uh,
at least with the Penrose.
yeah, right. Um, I feel like your guys' issue wasn't so much that you had so many new players. It was more that you guys just had costly injuries at the wrong times. And that may have, affected your ability to get the team rolling. But the only reason I say that, I mean, you look at Western. Western had 16 new guys.
Yeah,
The one thing that Western did probably better than anybody in the conference was they avoided injuries somehow. You didn't hear about big name guys losing extended periods of time. I think Wyatt Chingothi may have gotten hurt at some point in the season. I think he had a concussion issue after a game. Uh, a guy who plays kind of bottom line minutes, if not as the extra skater. So not a big name loss per se. Great locker room guy, a guy who's been around the program for 4 years. Um, but as far as like on the ice per se, they didn't have any big losses for extended periods of time. And I think that helped them a lot. And it would have helped Omaha too if they hadn't lost so many guys. Because when the team was together, they played well and they were able to get to that third or fourth spot in the conference, and host a playoff series. So I mean, like it's definitely not always just because it's new guys; it's the other extenuating circumstances, which I think also may have bit Barry in the butt a little bit too. I think he had some injury issues that didn't help his team very much. St. Cloud State, another team that had a lot of injury issues. The
Hmm.
biggest one being Posh, who went down for an extended period of time and led to, was it the longest losing streak in program history? It'll be interesting to see how they rebound with Posh leaving. I think he signed a pro deal.
Yeah, he did.
So luckily they don't lose him to the portal. They don't have to watch him play for somebody else. But that's still a huge loss, and it showed during the season that they're a completely different team without him. Other guys who signed pro deals were Josh Ludke, who signs with the Savannah Ghost Pirates, probably the coolest team name in the ECHL.
There's one other that's better.
Way better than the Night Monsters. That's so dumb. And then Mason Solquist, also a senior, signed with Wheeling. I did not realize that Dominic Bassi was still in college hockey. I thought he signed a pro deal last year, but
I thought he did too.
He transferred from
it transferred.
Yep, he transferred from St. Cloud to St. Lawrence. He signs an ECHL deal with Idaho, the Idaho Grizzlies, out of St. Lawrence this year.
Well, that would explain why we didn't hear about him at all, because
So,
it was St. Lawrence.
but
No, I think just to go back with the team chemistry, injuries are a huge part of that because you can bring in new guys, but
Yeah.
if you're not playing together, you don't know how other guys play. If somebody gets hurt game 2 and they don't come back until game 16 and then they're put on your line, well, you don't know how they play. It's any sport. Uh,
Yeah.
Playing basketball, you don't know where a guy's going to be, but if you've played with them your whole life, you know exactly where he's going to be. You can give him the ball, you can give him the puck, you can do whatever because it's a team sport. And I it just is proven in a lot of different teams that build the new one. And it sucks when they have to go from the bottom up. They start maybe building something and then it's like the bottom drops out.
Yeah.
But if you can get these guys to play together for the first half of the season, maybe your non-conference doesn't go as well as it should, but build it up. You look at UMD this towards the end of the year, those guys started to play a little better when they got used to each other. Never know what can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I look at Western. They lost 70% of their offensive scoring. Really, the only thing that stayed consistent was the goal, and that was for half the season. Really, I mean, Cam was back there half the amount of games, so they still play a new goalie. Completely new lines on defense, completely new lines on offense. First did do some line shuffling throughout the season. He has shown that he's not afraid to mix lines up if guys look like they're playing better in other positions, or a guy doesn't seem to be working out as well on one line, he'll move him down to another. And I mean, what owned the first program over 30 wins this season. They win the regular season. They win the Penrose. We mentioned that they win the Penrose Cup. They win the Frozen Faceoff. They've won their first regional in program history. They're going to their first Frozen Four in program history. It's again, they have to see an opponent they know, but it's really a testament to that coaching staff and what they did, and all of those players coming in with a set goal and understanding that the process and the results are not mutually inclusive. If you trust the process, you may not always have the results you want, but eventually you'll get there. And we're seeing it flourish here right now in a lot of sports, if you're at least in the state of Michigan, but especially with this Bronco team and with a lot of sports around Kalamazoo, Western Michigan, as we were talking to Dan about. I don't know if you caught that, Brent, but lately Western has seemed to have won either a regular season championship or a conference championship in pretty much every sport aside from football and men's and women's basketball. Like, it's insane what's going on here. And they actually just welcomed a new women's basketball coach to campus today, the former coach retiring. So leaving on his own terms.
I thought I was talking to him for the second time when he had to fire somebody. I was gonna be like, son of a.
No. And a thing that I think Western does right, I don't know if you guys could speak to this for your schools, but there's always another coach at a Western hockey game, whether it's the men's basketball coach, the women's basketball coach, the soccer coach, football. Like, if their team's not playing and they have the opportunity, they're supporting the other programs, and you see them at the other teams' games, whether it's soccer or hockey. I see them at hockey the most because that's the one I go to the most of, but I've seen them at soccer games, basketball games. Dan pointed out that when the volleyball team was going on its incredible run a couple years ago, I think they went undefeated in the MAC and won the regular season, hosted the MAC championship tournament and won that in the last set. Like, the entire football team is going nuts in the stands trying to will the team to close it out at home and lift another trophy. So the community that follows this team, and yeah, the Rowe family, I mean, they have RTB, they've stolen PJ Flex Row the Boat. They just spell it differently. They have their own RTB hats. So it lives on at Western. It lives on at Western for a little bit longer.
I'm glad he can just kind of a little longer. But no, I don't know about you, Brent, but I haven't noticed any coaches when I've been to games, or like usually when I'm watching on NCHC TV, they're doing in between. They just show the big jumbotron. I don't see any coaches, but then again, I don't know any of the coaches for the other sports because
Yeah.
they're not division. At least for me, they're not Division 1, and I don't care. Everything outside of hockey, I'm Gophers. I know University of Minnesota football. I know basketball. I know baseball. I know, well, Motzko, everybody knows from his time at St. Cloud, but I don't see them there. And that was a huge thing when we had Dan on, that building that culture and everybody supporting each other. I thought that was great. I was fired up.
Yeah, I know it's a bit easier here in Omaha since basketball and volleyball play in the hockey arena. So obviously, I know we went to a couple basketball games this year, and the hockey team was there. Um, and I know internally they kind of have um, I don't know, not checklists, but I know like they make it a point that every team goes to the like support everyone else. Like
Yeah.
if you're available, like you get I don't know that I think they do like some like I said some internal like not competition, but they post pictures on Instagram on Twitter or stuff like that, and they get like points or whatever for being for going to support other teams. So I know it's like there's that, but I know that everyone supports everyone, um, and you're typically going to see some other team or whatever um, at a hockey game or a soccer match or something like that. So
And I think there used to be a little bit more commingling amongst the athletes when with certain res halls on campus. But I mean, the Western campus has changed a ton in the last, well, now almost 20 years. But since my time there, years ago in the early 2000s began.
And I know the University of Minnesota, they do a lot of commingling, just from kind of knowing a kid on the basketball team, but all the athletes, they have their own village. They all
Yeah.
stay in the same dorm. They're always going to football games. It kind of sucks because they have to be separated from the regular students, but they're still there. They're still supporting each other. But we talked about it with Dan when he was talking about football, and I'm like, well, there might be a former Western coach. He's like, oh, I love PJ Fleck, and I'm like, yeah, I can tell you are that same. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, but a rah type of guy where you want everybody to get along and support each other. But that's the way you win too. You want that support from the school, because if you see the football team, the basketball team, the volleyball team at a hockey game, and the hockey players at a volleyball game or a soccer match, it builds excitement amongst the fans. Like, hey, these kids are doing it. We should go support them as well because they support their classmates. I want to support them supporting their classmates, and it kind of
Well,
it snowballs.
and that's the thing too, is like they're your classmates, they're your friends,
Hmm.
and this is
yeah,
really the last opportunity that you're able to support people that you like might have a direct relationship with when they're not playing. I mean, the same in high school. Like you go to basketball games in high school or football games on Friday nights because you're friends with the starting offensive lineman, or it's like the place
Hmm.
to go and hang out with your friends one more time before the weekend or before you graduate or whatever. It's just everyone has those memories of Friday night lights, whether they were playing or they were hanging out on the bleachers or throwing shit at each other uh, in the end zones. Like everyone has those memories, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, I'm here because I know the quarterback, or I know the wide receiver, or I have math with the offensive lineman. And he won't stop cheating off my paper, but he's a pretty good guy, so I'll go support him on Friday. I mean, stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it's the same in college. Like you, maybe hopefully not the cheating off each other's math tests, but you know it happens. But I mean, it's still the fact that like you hang out with those guys during the week, or like you have classes, or you're in study groups, and you're like, oh, you play on the hockey team. How good are you? Let's go see. Let's go find out. And then you realize, at least at West, you're like, oh shit, hockey games are a fun place to be. Whether I know these guys or not, they're a fun spot to be.
I will say it was kind of the opposite for me in college. I did have classes with some other athletes, and yeah, I became friends with some of the football players just because we were in class every time. But hockey team, football team, I'm like, I'll go check it out. I like hockey. Jesus Christ, that was not hockey. It was such bad hockey. And these dudes are like 24 years old playing D3, and they thought they were just the best hockey players. It was, what was the Herb Brooks line? Like a bunch of monkeys trying to hump a football.
I mean,
That's what it looked like. Here's the puck. Here is them hitting each other. Guys, the puck is right there. But it was very segregated. So different schools have different ways of going about it. And I was just going because I like sports, but they wouldn't come to a tennis match.
yeah.
They wouldn't go to a soccer game. They wouldn't go to any basketball game, volleyball. I went to most of those, but that's just because I'm a sports nerd.
Yeah.
I love it. So it all depends on how you're AD, and nobody promoted that. It was kind of like, oh, okay, your own in your own little clique.
Well, I mean, I
Like
got
our baseball team, nationally ranked. I never went to one because I did not care.
yeah. I mean, I think I hit up every sport. Also, one, they're all D1. Two, I didn't have to pay for tickets. I just had to show my ID at the gate. And so, I mean, what else am I going to do on a Saturday at noon besides go to D1 football for free? Like, that's a no brainer. Stop at the basketball arena or hit up the ice arena and then decide that I'm just going to live at the ice arena for the next 6 years while I slowly work on this degree that I don't use. But
Next 14, 15, 20 years, you mean?
yeah, I mean 6 as a student, all right? Colorado College. Let's get back to some of these teams and wrap this up here pretty quickly. They're losing a lot of leadership again. Last year we knew it was because they were grad students. They didn't really have a spot to be students anymore. This year it's high production guys leaving, either for the pros or some younger guys hitting the portal. Ty Gallagher is the only senior to sign a pro deal so far. He signs with Providence in the AHL. Big names on the offensive side of the puck. Noah Laba signs with the Rangers. Gleb Vrenyev also going to New York, but he's going to the Islanders as a free agent. So they lose 2 juniors. And then they've got 2 names in the portal so far, both sophomores. Tyler Dunbar, a defenseman who had 1 assist, and Zachariah Wisdom, sophomore, played 36 games, 8 goals, 13 assists for 21 points. Was a 7th round pick of Seattle in 2023. So some offensive names in the portal are signing pro deals for Colorado College. And Emberko, not as strong as he's been the last couple of years. I don't know if it was just an off year or if guys were getting familiar to him, but he seemed to struggle a little bit in net this year. Ended up giving up some starts to the freshman goalie there near the end of the year, who came up big a couple times, once against Arizona State, once against Western. So yeah, some interesting developments there, and hopefully they're not on a slide back to the bottom half of the conference. I think they ended up 6th. They were like locked in at 6th or 7th this year.
Yeah.
7th. They were locked in at 7th. They couldn't get above North Dakota.
Yeah. Because no, because Miami was 9th. St. Cloud was 8th.
Yeah, it was 5th. No, 6th. It was 6th because North Dakota could have got as high as like third, and Omaha could have fallen from like 2nd to 5th or something, and they ended up 4th. I think Denver was the only team that jumped them.
But yeah, Emberko, he kind of seems like, I don't know if it's the team in front of him or what, but he seems like he's gone down each year just a little bit. And he was almost the best when the team was the worst, when they could only score on the power play.
He seems to have gotten worse as their offense has gotten better, because I think their defense has lacked a little bit.
Yeah, because when it was King was scoring on the power play, I think it was King, or no, McCown.
Yeah.
King is on Denver.
Yeah, I knew I was in the right state. I was like, that's not the right team. McCown, he was scoring on the power play like every time he touched the puck. Emberko was great. but they just couldn't win games. And now they have the offense. He's just not as good. I think it's when he chipped a tooth or lost a tooth in St. Cloud sophomore year. I think that was his downfall. That was the start of it.
I feel
Took me
like
right off the face.
Yeah, he took that one hard too. Uh,
I feel like Adam Schefter getting
but
updates to my DMs mid podcast.
um, I mean, I guess the rumor is out there, right? That Wisdom is potentially coming to Western Michigan. That seems to be the likely landing spot for him. Hopefully, I mean that depending on who stays and who goes, that could make for some very interesting lineup or some lines that I think could be extremely successful. But we won't really know anything Western wise as far as player movement until at the earliest would be Friday, and at the latest would be next Sunday. So, because they still have at least one more game to play, I expect it to be an absolute barn burner. I guess we could mention Arizona State and the number of guys they've got in the portal. A couple big names for them as well. Gibson Homer, junior goaltender, enters. I mean, he played great for them. I think they lost both of their goalies. Actually, they lost 3 goalies because Pavicic, who played well down the stretch at the end of the year, I think he signed a pro deal. Luke Pavicic signed with Orlando of the ECHL, the Solar Bears.
Yeah, that's also a cool name. I think
I
they
like
used to be a Wild affiliate.
Their logo and colors are very nice. I like the Solar Bears. But they also lose Noah Beck, a grad defenseman signed with San Jose. Ryan Kerwin signed with Toronto of the AHL. Ty Merchant, Philadelphia of the NHL. Artem Shalin, Texas AHL, and Ethan Zamaja with the Savannah Ghost Pirates. That's how I'm going to say it.
I thought you were going to say the Savannah Bananas.
It's really hard.
That would have been like.
Luckily, I said Savannah Ghost Pirates earlier, so it was already in my head. But every time I see Savannah, I'm just Savannah Banana. Don't say banana. Don't say banana. And then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in the portal, including both goalies, Zachariah Bryce, the freshman who did not play. Oh, they just added another one. Things being updated on the fly here. Cole Helm, sophomore, just entered the portal for Arizona State as I was looking at it.
Why didn't it update for me? Come on, Sydney.
I don't know. It literally just did it. So they will be in the market for a goaltender too. I mean, I don't know what to think of their situation yet. This being their first year in the conference, they had a really good year. It could go either way for them. So that'll be a situation to watch it and keep up with. But
I think most people, regardless, think they overperformed, but just how much they overperformed is subject to where you had them. I think for you and I, Wes, we had them about 4th or 5th, right in the middle of the pack. They finished 2nd, so they didn't super overachieve from where we had them. But then you have the quote unquote experts that were putting them at 7, 8, 9 for whatever reason. I don't know. I think when we talked with Brad, he said ASU, he had them right about that 4 or 5 thing. So we're like, hey, we're not idiots. But
perception is
just
everything.
I know. But looking at their roster, I think they'll be okay. It's just going to be very interesting how they reload. Some people that we know have their opinion on Powers, but he's been there for long enough. He's gotten this program to where they're at, regardless if you like him or not. I wouldn't worry about them, and I think they're probably going to be right up there at the top next year too. I don't think they're going to go too far down. And I mean, who wouldn't want to go down to play at Arizona State? The weather, nice weather,
Well, I could think of
basically
about
brand new women.
8 to 9 guys who don't want to play at Arizona State.
Or
Uh,
can't.
yeah, or can't, or we're told that
Yeah.
their services are no longer needed here.
Unfortunately, you're gonna have to play somewhere else.
In fact, that list could be getting longer as we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denver and Western still without anybody, but they're still playing. So, Colin Ralph and Warren Clark in the portal for St. Cloud State. We mentioned Posh being the big name that signed a pro deal. Minnesota Duluth with 4 so far: Cole Spicer, Kyle Bettens, Zach Sandy, and Matt Perkins, who entered the portal today. And they had Owen Gallatin signed a pro deal with the Fort Wayne Comets of the ECHL.
Yeah, those guys, that's experience that we're losing. Not a lot of point production out of those guys, but if you were to listen to all the games that uh for UMD, Spicer, Bettens, Perkins, they were all involved in the plays and more or less defensively. Sandy, he was our third goalie. He's been the third goalie for the past few years, so I'm not surprised that he's finally getting out of there, especially with Guyon and Knapp being now sophomores coming back and they got the majority of the minutes. Maybe Sandy thought, I'll give it one more year. I can maybe win it over with these two freshmen. He's played a few games. He's been okay. I just think he's better served going somewhere else. So good for him. Bettens, Spicer, and Perkins. I wouldn't say they're huge losses, kind of like Steve's going away last year, or Isaac Howard, but they're going to be bigger defensively. Um, I don't know. We'll see how the freshmen do as sophomores, and then the incoming freshmen. We're going to be a young team next year, like we were this year. We're still going to be a very young team.
I mean, if you listen to Brad, he expects high things out of your next incoming classes. He also threw your coach's name in there into the North Dakota coaching carousel or search when it was happening, but didn't think that Sandy was really interested in going with the career he's had at Omaha, or not Omaha, Jesus Christ, at Duluth. I had Omaha open on the other screen and I just saw the red in it.
I should have asked him about that. I should have gone up to a suite because in Fargo the suites are really low. They're not like at the X where they're higher up. So I saw where he was at, and I'm like, oh yeah, I see Sandy over there. I should have gone and be like, you going to North Dakota? Please don't.
But I don't know. Brad also thinks that he may not be. I mean, I guess it depends on what his plans are, but he's thinking that Sandy might be, nearing the end of his coaching career. I mean, the dude's been coaching at Duluth for 25 years. He's in his 60s, so definitely could be. He's a lot closer to the end than the beginning for sure, but I mean, still looks like. And whatever his opinions of the way that college hockey is going, I think the way that things are changing is chasing out a lot more coaches than just the wear and tear of the coaching life lately.
Yeah. And I mean the nice part is to if he decides to hang it up, I don't know how many years he has left on his contract, if it's 2, 3, whatever it is. But when he decides to hang him up, he has a coaching tree, as you well know, Wes, and NCHC fans know. There are guys that would potentially step in that are assistant coaches, and if this job opens up, they know the program, they know the culture up there, and how fans think they could potentially take that position. The one that won't probably is Brett Larson, but well, he's got a head coaching gig already.
Yeah.
Even though that program is that whole school just they don't know what they're doing. They don't know their head from their ass at this point.
Yeah, I know another name that was floated around pretty heavily was current associate head coach at Western Michigan, Jason Herder. He has ties to North Dakota. Longtime coach under Sandlin, was big in getting them their national titles. Has been big in getting Western as close as they've gotten to theirs. So definitely a guy that makes programs better by being there, whether it's his recruiting eye or his coaching abilities. But it would be a big loss for Western if he decided to leave. Hopefully he won't. I know there were some talks that he was kind of on his way away from coaching before First called, and their connection was what brought him here. So hopefully, that maintains until he's ready to hang him up. Because I mean, you can't argue with what he's done in the past and what he's doing now. So
Sorry, my little
leave him here.
My little celebration was the Twins are actually going to win a game.
Oh, hot darn!
Another coach that was let go was Peter Menino from TC.
Yep.
Which is really interesting.
And then Ferris State coach retired. They got Riley's his last name.
Brett Riley.
Yeah, Brett
which
Riley.
Is really weird because it's almost me and my sister's names. So,
but he takes over that program.
You see their April Fool's Day today? I think it was April Fool's. Ferris.
No.
They announced that Brett Riley, who was just announced this week, was a candidate for Coach of the Year.
Oh,
like a top 10 finalist.
Oh, speaking of Coach of the Year finalists, NCHC has two, both of them currently representing their teams in the NCAA tournament. David Carl and Coach Ferschweiler, who won the NCHC's Coach of the Year, much to the chagrin of some Arizona State fans who think their coach should have won it, but he didn't, so suck it, Sun Devils. And now they're both up for the national award, and I believe that Fersch is the only one who both won their conference championships and their conference Coach of the Year and has gotten their team to the Frozen Four. So I don't know. He seems like he should be the front runner for that award if we're going based off wins alone. But when you look at the other things that he's done, one, having 16 players, new guys to the program and the success that he's had, two, just the you can feel that everyone on that team enjoys being his player and working with him and working under him and playing for him.
Yeah.
And then, the way he handled that roster, I mean, played both goalies extremely well, gets the most out of his talent, whether it's 32 games or 15. So he's doing everything right, and he's definitely making his alma mater a much better place to play hockey and building the program that he was once a part of as a player.
I think the one thing people forget, especially those Arizona State fans, is anybody that's voting for a different coach, it's not disrespecting the job that other coach has done or the other coaches have done. Like David Carl, we all know he's a terrific coach. Shoot, he's 35 years old. Look at what he's done with that program.
Yeah.
The man is a terrific coach. It's just, what have you done for me this year? And yeah, he had a great year, but you didn't win the Penrose and you didn't win the Frozen Faceoff. It's not taking away from you. We can all respect what he's done.
Yeah,
but people don't understand that.
You can't find a more consistent coach in NCAA hockey this year than Pat Ferschweiler. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the team itself lost 2 games in regulation all year, or three games in regulation all year. BC at the beginning of the year, Michigan State in the GLI, or 4, Michigan and Arizona State in conference. One conference regulation loss all year. They were the most consistent team. They had the most wins in the regular season. Again, you're doing that with losing 70% of your offense, losing every line that you had last year, having to create new lines from the first line to the fourth line, and doing it in a way that allows you to run 4 lines every single game for 60 minutes. That puts so much pressure on another team when they can't necessarily keep up with 4 lines, and you're getting depth in scoring, and you're doing everything from freshmen to grad students, and you're getting more production out of those guys than ever. I mean, a plethora of guys with career years yet again coming through it under Pat's tutelage. Like, and I went back and forth a little bit between Powers and First this year. But then when I sat down and actually looked at it, First was far and away the NCHC Coach of the Year. And under the same metrics, he's got to be the leader for the Spencer Penrose Head Coach of the Year with the national award.
Yeah. And well, it's kind of like you and I, we talked about it with the NFL, because you're wearing your Lions hat. I'm wearing my Vikings hat. There's arguments made for both coaches, and I mean, maybe NFL a little bit different in the sense that Campbell had to deal with all the injuries on both sides of the ball, but we also had Sam Darnold at quarterback, and we were, I think 6.5 was our over under, and we had 14 wins.
Yeah.
It's you go back and forth, but you're not going to be angry with either choice.
No.
You just you deal with it there. Now, yeah, sometimes there are decisions made on certain teams or certain players winning awards where you're like, that just makes 0 sense. But Coach of the Year, usually it's pretty even. I know that I was going back and forth with some people on Instagram where they were trying to say how Powers was doing this, but it's it's only if you win coach, or if you win the regular season title, that's the award. I'm kind of like, no,
this is First's second award, and he did not win the Penrose. This is
yeah,
the first time he won the award.
And last year it was Mayotte who won it, and they definitely did not win the Penrose.
Yeah,
but I mean, there was that same a different person, but that person on Twitter today that was Western, they only didn't play Denver. They played every other team 4 times, but they didn't play Denver 4 times. It's like,
they also didn't play St. Cloud State 4 times. They didn't play
UMD 4 times. It was kind of like, I just try again here. Like, if you're gonna make an argument, at least make a compelling argument. That
tell me you didn't read the schedule without telling me you didn't read the schedule, because some big gaping holes in your logic there.
Tell me you play with cacti on your free time.
So, but I think we're gonna wrap it up there. A little bit longer of an episode. 2 things to note. 1, there will be an additional episode tomorrow. This is not an April Fool's joke. We will be live again tomorrow.
This is legit. I can confirm. I'm missing trivia for this, so this is a big deal.
And we should be joined by the only player in NCHC history to win back-to-back Frozen Face-Off championship titles. That being Tristan Lemaire of the current WMU Bronco hockey team, having won last year with Denver and this year against Denver with Western, making him the only player to win the award back-to-back years. Much like Pat Maroon, when he was winning cups with every team possible, it seemed like. But he should be on tomorrow, and then there will not be an episode the Tuesday before the Frozen Face-Off games next week, because I will be out of town in New Orleans, and I'm not taking that much crap to do an episode from down there. And I'll be hanging out with my baby and my wife. So after that, we should be back to basically normal schedule, unless stuff comes up and we feel like doing stuff over the summer, because it's the summertime. But when we do come back, we will also have some Lost and Lunatics to talk to you about the student section and what it means to be a lunatic and how they got to be an RSO, a registered student organization. So we'll look at that kind of stuff and just keep growing this thing that we do in our basements or spare bedrooms or wherever we do it, and then put it on the internet for all of 5 people to see. That's not true. There's like 30 that have been watching, and we actually picked up another subscriber. We are almost at 60 subs. We're at like 58. So go us! Yay! Yeah. So thank you to the 57 other people that aren't me that have subbed to this channel, because I am one of them.
56 between the two of us.
And I'm pretty sure I'm subbed, so 55.
55.
You're not here all of the time, so you're
True.
So you still count as a real sub, and even though you have been a great contributor to the program, and I think you may lead the appearances, guest appearances. You might be in the lead. It's a tough count between you and Trevor, but I think you got him. So
Yeah.
I think you do too.
It's good competition.
But yeah, those are all the programming notes to remember. So if you have any other thing, or if there was something you missed, you can always check us out on the Twitters. Our stuff is around somewhere. It's there. I hope at this point you've figured it out. If not, at least the Go Horns and Fight Songs one has been scrolling across the bottom of the page, and I know our personal handles are on the profile of that one, and Brent retweets and tweets about stuff enough that we follow and retweet ourselves, so you'll figure out where he is at. Special thanks to Brad Schlossman and Sydney Wolf once again for keeping us up to date on everything pro signing and transfer portal news. Sydney has got her thing going at cleansheethockey.com for a portal on both the men's and women's side of college hockey. That's where I get all of my portal news. And then Brad also is a great resource for anything college hockey news-wise, whether it's the portal, pro signings, coaching hirings and firings, rule changes, whatever you need. Brad Schlossman is the place to go and get your college hockey news, even though he mostly covers North Dakota. We won't hold that against him.
Hey, his mom is from Minnesota, so
yeah,
I accept him.
Anything that I am missing?
Oh, hey, guess what? That news that news is already public. So,
Oh, well,
throw it out there,
like
senor.
Whoever's watching, Tanner Ledke is heading to Minnesota next year to play for the Golden Gophers.
Well, I mean, you thought he was going to be a maroon and gold anyway.
Yeah, I did.
So
at least he's not going to be in conference.
Right.
But good for him.
On that note, we're going to be out of here. One thing left to say, pucks on net, good things happen, like Go Horns and Fight Songs. Until tomorrow, we're out of here. See you then. Bye.